All right. She Speaks Family, episode 6. I hope y'all are doing well. I hope you enjoyed the last episode. We just looked at it and we were like, we were full. We were full. Glad that you're joining us again. Thanks to everyone who is following, sharing, subscribing, all of that good stuff. Please comment everything. Let us know how you're feeling. I am Shantae. I'm going to introduce my co-host, Miss Angela Woods.
Hey, y'all.
And Miss Ravella Nesbitt. Yes, and we are diving right in. Topic for episode 6. Y'all ready? Presence over performance. Can I say it again?
Mm-hmm.
Presence over performance. Performance gets applause, but presence builds peace. You heard?
I heard it.
Mm-hmm. Performance gets applause, but presence builds peace. Quote.
That was a quote in and of itself.
That
really was.
I mean, for real? We about to get into it.
So the follow-up quote to her quote is, you are allowed to take up space without performing.
Taking up space without performing. Question, ladies. What if you didn't have to perform to be worthy? What if you didn't have to perform to be worthy? Who wants to take this one first?
Wow. Are you looking at me?
Oh, my.
Looking at me.
That's, what if I didn't have to perform to be worthy? What's so, oh, goodness. What's so challenging about that is that, I don't know about you all, but the most of my life, I have been trained to perform
That part.
in some way, shape, or form. It's been such an ingrained part of what I've been asked to do. I mean, I think about not like, of course, like in job, career, when you're, sitting at those tables, saying the right things, doing the right things, performing, producing, but also like in family environments, when a family member asks you to do something, whether that's a close family member or a more distant family member, and you really don't want to do it, but you do it out of obligation or do it because, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. You perform in that sense. I don't know what that would fully be like, not to perform. I would say I have entered into spaces now through self-awareness that I don't have to perform. And so I've gotten a taste of that. I cannot say that it has enveloped my whole life yet.
I gotcha. Yeah.
It's definitely a growth opportunity for me. Because I've often equated performance with productivity. Productivity equals performance, vice versa. So it's hard for me to disconnect those two, but then just the whole idea of not performing and just being fully present, that's a deep mind shift that I think I'm growing towards. Because if you are, like you mentioned, Ravella, if your whole life has been about performing for your family, you get rewarded for great performance. You get rewarded, in the job for hitting targets. You get rewarded sometimes in your friendship for, doing things for that are performance based.
Mhm.
You show up for people for things that you may not even want to go, but you have to put on the performance.
Yeah.
So I think that's a deep question, and to really think about how much of our lives are spent in performance mode. And I'd have to say, that's probably majority. That's a huge shift.
Mhm.
If the percentage is coming down, but it's still very big, right? So I don't yet know what it would feel like to step out of the performance space.
So here's a question. Like, why do we perform?
You're
Right.
just coming with it, right?
I know.
So it's like, right? So
Were these
what
in the
if you
prep
didn't
questions?
I don't remember we was talking about this.
If
but-
we did. It was on the sheet. It was on the
Oh,
okay, all right.
okay.
What if you didn't have to perform to be worthy? But I wonder if feeling, could there be a confusion between worthy and safe? Do we perform to feel safe? Is performing the safe way to go?
I think we probably perform to feel worthy. I think it's about feeling as if we belong in whatever the space is. Whether that's in relationships or whether that's in the boardroom, wherever it is, I think we perform to validate that for ourselves. Like, okay, we belong here. We're worthy.
Yeah.
It's that kind of behavioral psychology of the rewards, right? What do you get rewarded for? Do you get rewarded for feeling worthy, or do you get rewarded for performing? And I would argue that we get rewarded for performing, because worthiness really is an internal, introspective kind of self-assessment of how you feel in that moment. And people may not know that. Only you know when you feel worthy, right? So the performance piece is the external piece that is often controlled by kind of that rewards piece. So, but to your point, what would it feel like to disconnect from the external rewards perspective and sit with your own self, your own inner thoughts about being worthy? What would that feel like? It would feel scary to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, when I reflect on my personal self, there have been plenty of moments where I performed because it was a safe thing to do. Meaning, safety equates to not having to be your full self because people don't understand you.
Yeah.
And you don't want people to misinterpret your authenticity for something else. So you perform for them for their comfort. To make the room feel comfortable. I perform so everybody can just be comfortable. I do feel that many start to love the applause and lose themselves for the sake of the applause. Like losing yourself. When do you find yourself again? Like, what happens after the performance? What shifted the performance for y'all? Is there anything that you can think about to say, this moment in my life shifted me having to feel like I have to perform?
I think because I have been in high performance mode all my life, high achiever, high performance. I think what shifted for me is, I think health challenges. That was the thing that slowed me right on down. When your body is not well, your mental capacity is not well, that's the thing that stops you in your tracks, and then you have to stop and reflect. what's causing this? And I think I was losing track of performing because I got so good at performing, it didn't even feed my need for the reward. So the rewards no longer mattered.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to perform regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And not only was I going to perform, I overperformed.
Wow.
So we as Black women, we don't just do the status quo.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
We take it to 115,000.
Do that.
Because that is what culturally we have been brought up, that you have got to be, and I'll speak for myself. My daddy always said to me, you have to be twice as good to get half the distance. And that's stuck in my head.
Right.
And so I have performed and overperformed until I couldn't anymore. So physically couldn't do it anymore. So the shift came when my body and my mind said no. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the shift for me began probably really middle part of last year, in that there were some decisions that I was making, and I was making them really quickly. Like there was a sense of urgency around it, and it did not honor my internal process. It didn't. It honored the external need and the external drive, but it didn't honor the internal process. And it sort of came more to light for me, even more in a different way of, wow, you are performing for those around you, but really not honoring your process. So therefore the decision that came out of that was something that wasn't really it wasn't authentic to me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't authentic to the way that I saw something. So that's when I was like, wait a minute. I need, sort of take a step back and honor this part of who I am and not dismiss it, and be in the present moment of who I am truly, because God gave me those abilities to consider and analyze and evaluate for reasons that I need to honor. And there are times and spaces where that is needed.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was probably robbing myself and the people in those spaces of what I had to offer, because I was in performance mode and not really honoring myself at the time.
Yes.
Yeah. That's good. That is so good. I think, and I was sitting here thinking, like, when was the shift? Like, and when I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize me.
Yeah.
When I looked in the mirror and who are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And couldn't answer the question. And that's when I knew something had to change. Because, you talk about performing from a professional perspective, but we perform sometimes out of responsibility too.
Yes.
And I mean, and your roles will have you perform. Wife, mom, friend, sister, best, like performance. And it's like you pick up so much. And when you can no longer recognize who you are, and what I mean by recognize that, you don't know how you're supposed to feel, but you feel something. You're like, I know I feel a certain way, but I can't pinpoint why. When you totally lose touch with who you are, that was my shift. Is when I was like, I got to figure out who the heck I am.
Yeah.
The applause doesn't matter.
The applause,
right.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't. And how about this? The applause not just doesn't matter, but sometimes is not even appreciated. So we didn't outperform the world, and at the end of the day, it's not even appreciated.
Yeah.
So what you doing?
Right.
So what you doing? So what you...
Right.
It's like, have you ever done over and beyond?
Yeah.
And then turn and
it's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, it really is.
It really is.
And it is just not not even appreciated.
Right.
The time will come where you wake up and say, I gotta stop. Here's the other question.
Yeah.
Hey, the time. All right. What is the cost of performance?
I'm going to say like the cost is for me is losing who I am
Mm-hmm.
and losing, I don't know, I keep coming back to this part of losing part of my soul. I'm not going to say my whole soul, but I mean like parts of the concreteness of who I show up to be and who I'm gifted to be, because I'm so in this space of performing and doing and, you know, creating a magic show out of what, So I think there's just this part of me that can be stripped away out of just the consistent performing. So it's a lack of authenticity that I lose.
Yeah.
I think, to Ravella's point, losing yourself is such a critical part of overperformance. But I also got to go back to what you said. Part of what we're talking about is self accountability. Because we have been in performance, because I've been in performance, high performance mode, I set that bar for others to expect me to continue to perform.
Preach.
At that level.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so their appreciation, if you did the graph, the higher I performed, the appreciation level went down. So I performed even harder. So I pushed the bar even higher until I physically could not do it anymore. Right. And so to your point, you're at this high, overextended, over-indexed level of performance that you have driven it to yourself, which is not to say that the environment doesn't support and hasn't rewarded that. But if we're talking about self-accountability, it's, what are you doing? And it's at that moment that you say, I no longer have to do this. I am just as good at a mediocre level and doing well because I set this bar myself.
Yeah, I have to say, like, this is becoming. This like all of the things that we are sharing and the evolution is all a part of us becoming. And even as we talk here, like there is growth happening. I know for me, as I hear what Angela is saying and what you're saying, Shantae, and it's like pushing me to like, wow, that's an area I need to like honor myself in. I need to step more into that. So I love that we get to share just the real time evolution of becoming in this moment.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Angela, girl. So when you mentioned and so eloquently talked about the bar that we raise for ourselves, it immediately pointed to how so many of us lack self-confidence to where we feel like even when we do our best, it's not good enough. For who? Sometimes we feel like it's not good enough for us. We got work to do on ourselves. Because nobody says you're not doing well. It's we're like, okay, well, now that it's normalized, now I got to do something else. Listen, the cost of performance.
There will never be enough applause. If that's your only motivation.
Yes. That is so powerful, which means the cost of performance is your strength, is the essence of who you are. If you are giving in undeserving areas, the areas that are deserving, they're lacking, which means you're going to lose what God has already given you because you're putting your energy and your strength in places that God said, why are you? I didn't tell you to put your energy there.
Right.
Right.
You're putting your energy there.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Undeserving areas.
And then we can wonder why we haven't accomplished the things that we want to accomplish because we've not put our energies in the places in which we need to place them in, those places in which are natural for us, like, leaning into our natural gifts, because that is what makes us different. That's what makes us unique. That's what makes people, that's what draws people to us, because we have something that others may not. And so it's like, how can we become more comfortable in that?
Wow. Wow. I'll say this, sidebar, and I don't know, women, talking all the ladies out there, high performing women, don't lose what's important to you because you're chasing after something that is not God given for you. You probably have, and I say this too, and I apologize to some of our Black men out there, because us as Black women, sometimes we overdo it and we neglect areas.
Sometimes.
Stop. I was trying to be nice, Angela.
We're going to be truthful.
We'll be truthful.
I'm trying to be nice. It's like, and you turn around and you wonder why, things are missing in your relationship. Right. Because, and why do we do it? Why do we put so much pressure on ourselves? What are we trying to accomplish in this life?
I think there are many cases where we are measuring ourselves by external factors. Like in the workplace, we want to make things equitable for everyone. Or we want to stand in the gap when things are not going well. I think we, have in our heads have some kind of fictitious thing of what does a successful person look like. Or I may see somebody like Ravella, I want to be like her. So I'm going to do all the things that I think I need to do to be like her, instead of saying, what's the best Angela? Right.
Yeah.
So we do that to ourselves, and we're going back to accountability. At what point do we shift from just being high performers to really fully being present?
Yes.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I was going to say, this is just like burning on my heart. I think a lot of times we are chasing money.
Yeah.
There are a lot of folks who are I have to say this, because
Money and status.
Money and status. I see this over and over and over and over again. And we should never be chasing money. Money should be chasing us. And if money's chasing us, that means that we are operating more so in our gifts.
I love that.
Versus being us chasing money. If we're operating in our gifts, there is money to be made as we're operating in our gifts, because it's true and it's authentic.
That's right.
So I want to say, let's stop chasing money and status because other people have it, or we perceive they have it, because we don't know.
That's right.
But chase the gifts that we have.
Yes.
Instead.
And if you chase the gifts, then you're actually living in your joy.
Yes.
If you, right, it's like that is the joyous place. Like when you are operating in your gifts, you are therefore operating in a joyous place.
Yes.
This is good, y'all. This is good.
I had a couple of
So,
yes.
presence builds peace. This is where we'll close. We talked about performance. Let's talk about the importance of presence. Presence builds peace. If you had to encourage our listeners from that perspective and that lens? Because I think so many of us are seeking peace. They just want to be settled in our lives, want to be settled in our relationships, want to be settled with our internal selves. And that comes with peace, but it also comes with a gentle presence. So how can presence build peace?
I think where I've learned more about presence, honestly, is from my family. And it has not been the performance that they cared about. What they care about is me being present for them. And so when, we're having conversations about things, it's always your kids. Like, they remember the things that you don't remember because you're clicking along trying to get them to do the things. Yeah. And it's always about when you were present and listening with your full self to them, or you showed up, or you were there and they knew that you were there. So my I think opportunity to learn about presence is just really focusing on when I'm hearing that from my family. That's what centers me. And that, I think, will get me to peace.
I love
Yeah. So I have 3 words. Well, 2.5, because it's like hyphenated. One is a centered self, and the other is stillness. So I would say a centered self is where all parts of us, ourselves, psychologically, spiritually, relationally, are all in alignment. There's congruence there. Like, we're grounded in our values. We're grounded in who we are. We're not rocked by conflict or challenges in the way that if something were to challenge us, we know what our values are. So like that's what grounds us. So I would say, like, to work on ourselves, being centered selves.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where all of those things are congruent and in alignment. And I would say a part of that is also stillness in that. And stillness is not something that is passive. It is active. It is, and that is like my word for this year is around stillness. And that is like being able to discern what I need to do when I need to do it. So if I need to operate in urgency, then I operate in a sense of urgency. If I don't, then I am, slowing the process down to be in a place of stillness. But it's acting with intention and wisdom. And so for me, those things are part of me being present.
Yeah.
Being and working on my center self and working on stillness.
Yes, Rebella.
Stillness. Good. Presence builds peace. If presence builds peace, what are you building? Does that make sense? So sometimes we're building in areas that does not equate to peace.
Yes.
So when you're looking at building, right, I just see like blocks in front of me, like just building. If you had to label each block that you're building, what are you labeling these blocks as? Are you labeling it as peace, or is it stress, or is it godly love? Is it performance, money, or is it relationship and wholeness? So what are you building in order to get to your place of peace? Be patient with your building process. Building true, authentic, and sustainable peace sometimes take time
And practice.
and
In practice.
And I think I know that you talked about that a couple of episodes ago. Practice. Honor yourself enough to build slowly for sustainability, but build accurately, correctly, strategically, and through the lens of God. That's what I would say as far as presence, building peace, is to ask yourself, what are you building on? Label the blocks and then reflect on what the blocks are telling you.
Yes, yes,
Indeed.
Any closing thoughts? Or was that our closing thoughts?
I'm feeling very present in this moment.
Yeah.
Because of the learnings and the gems that you all just dropped. I had lots of light bulbs going in my head. And I think to what you were saying about your centered self and stillness and the building blocks all just resonated really clearly. What am I building? That's what I'm leaving with. What am I building?
Yeah. And I'm leaving with, what do I have to offer that I haven't yet offered? And through this conversation, my wheels are turning because I'm going back to my natural gifts and knowing and understanding, wow, there's some areas that I can continue to grow in so that I can help other people grow.
Yeah. Yeah. I will leave with this. I have very little strength to give, which means I can no longer perform. That cost of performance requires too much strength. So therefore, I will decide to build in peace.
Yeah.
Building in peace.
Amen.
I love that.
Listen, y'all. Episode 6 is a wrap. We sincerely hope that you have enjoyed this session. Just like, why did I say session? Y'all,
it was a session.
Listen, I hope that you all have enjoyed just this discussion and conversation as much as we have. Please share, please follow, please subscribe, please comment. We will see y'all again next month in love, in peace, and in faith. All right. See y'all.
Bye.